What if you could have homemade hors d'oeuvres, really, really excellent quality, easy to make, great to freeze, on hand at a moment's notice. They're ready when you are. Or when you just want to have a little date night or something sweet like that at home, we don't need a special occasion to eat well. Today we're going to make these little tartlets. I've already made the shells. All of that information will be provided, don't worry. And these little tartlet pans are very important for this process. They're not expensive, and you definitely need at least 24 of them. In the video, you'll see why, of making the little tartlet shells, you'll see why. But just in advance, you definitely need at least 24. They're easy to make. They're absolutely delicious. Wonderful texture, great flavor. And then you can fill them with whatever strikes your fancy. Today we're going to do two different fillings. We're going to do a Spanakopita filling, which is the spinach and green onions, and the oven is talking. Spinach and green onions and feta cheese, just delicious. And then the other we're going to do with caramelized onions and bacon and Gruyère cheese, so good. Easy to make. You make your fillings, you let it all cool down, you fill them up, and then you have a choice. Bake them off and serve them, or you freeze them on the tray, and then once they're frozen solid, you pack them up, label, and they're ready whenever you need an hors d'oeuvre. How can you go wrong? So that's what we're doing today. I'm excited about it. Let's do it. So we've got our board floured. We've got our little tartlet pans. Now I'm going to show you a tip because we have to blind bake. And to load these and then put pie weights in them and so forth, that is the definition of a chore. I don't want a chore. So I'm going to show you a tip. And that's the reason. The tip is why I bought 2 batches of these instead of 1. I'll show you. We've got our pin. We've got our floured bench. Whoopsie daisies, our beautiful dough. We got to make sure we flour both sides, not heavily. And we've got our cutter. Now, we want to get the flour off as soon as we're rolled out as thinly as we can, because we're going to re-roll to make sure that we have used up all of our dough. Don't worry about little spots like that. Doesn't matter. A pastry brush and wipe off all of the flour. You only have to worry about wiping it off on the top side, the part that will be exposed to the filling. That little tiny bit underneath is not a problem. So we've got 12 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Now, what we're going to do very carefully is we're going to cut out as many as we can from the first roll. Whoopsie. Now we're just going to give a gentle spritz of oil to the pan, and then we're going to take our cutter and we're going to cut as closely as we can so we can get as many as possible before we have to re-roll. But you want to make sure that you shake off the extra flour that's on the bottom side. You don't want to roll that in. Okay? It just falls right off. Okay? So now we've got our plastic that we had wrapped the dough in the first place. And we rewrap this way. And then to make sure it goes back to being one bit of dough, we roll it like this so it re-solidifies. Okay. Now we're going to take our little circles. We're going to make sure we hit the bottom You don't want an air gap down at the bottom. My dog is upset. He's an old man. He's always upset. And we're going to keep doing that until we are full. And then, ordinarily, there's a few ways you could do this. If you only had 12, which I do not recommend because it's such a chore to do it that way. To make sure that the dough doesn't puff up and take up room where your filling should be, you could poke a few holes in the bottom. That would help. You could actually do the whole pie weights thing, which I really find to be miserable when you're dealing with tiny little tartlet pans. Just awful. The whole point is to enjoy what we do, not to create obnoxious chores. We want to make sure that we're in the fluting. We want that cute little design. But fear not. Perfect it does not have to be, not yet. These are not expensive, so it is not difficult to make sure that you have the extra set. But why we want the extra set is because we want to take the extra empties and we want to press down, you see? And we want to be able to make sure that we're lined up with the fluting. Make sure that so you press down, you see, and it makes sure that your fluting is beautiful, and it will make sure that you get a nice brown crust because this heats up as well. No, make sure we're lined up, press. So you get a beautiful golden brown crust inside, on the inside and the outside, and you do not have to worry about the sides collapsing because this pan holds it in place. Now you can bake these off and you can freeze them just as they are. And then you can make little tartlets anytime you want. Or you can fill them, which is what we're going to do, and have them ready to go. And all we have to do is bring them back up to temperature. Just a reminder, whenever you've got something in the oven, always have a place for that item to land. You don't want to try to figure out where you can put a hot pan once that hot pan is in your hand. So the minute you put it in the oven, get out your cooling rack. Just a good habit, saves your counters and saves your fingers. While we're waiting, I want to show you a storage tip. These come in this tiny little box. I'm going to link it. Don't worry, you don't have to try to read the tiny little thing. These are so small that they just look for a way to get lost. I'm telling you, when you try to store these things, they run around and they hide behind everything else. So after you clean them, make sure they're dry so they don't rust. I store them back in their little box and then I stack them. I don't keep anything in its original packaging unless it's tiny. If it's tiny, this stuff is worth its weight in gold. And they did worth its weight in gold, my goodness. And they didn't come in some cheap little plastic bag. They came in a box. Save the box. Number one, it tells you what's in the box. You don't have to try to figure out what it is. And they can't get lost. Now that these are just cool enough to handle, we pop out our shells and they pop right out because we don't want to cause any steam. We don't want to cause any condensation underneath that's going to cause the bottoms of our little tartlets to get soggy. So it's just until you can handle it and then you get them out. And you want to cool them upside down. By cooling them upside down, they are more likely to maintain their shape. Whoops, nope, nope, nope. So these are our little tartlet shells. Now they sell these in the supermarket in the freezer section. But look how easy this was. And because we bought those little tartlet pans, we can make these over and over and over. So it's a money savings, and you can fill these with little quiches. I mean, you can just go nuts. You'll see what we're filling them with. It's delicious, but it's just 2 examples. I mean, we could do we'd run out of time before we ran out of examples. Anyhow, look how cute they are. They are just so cute. And the whole house smells great. We're ready. As always, the printable will be linked. I try very hard to make sure that I give all the detail because I want to make it so that you don't have any questions. I try to think of the questions beforehand to make sure that I'm giving you something that's complete and easy for you to use. I hope that's working. We've got our tart shells. They are done. They are not sticking, which is another great thing about these. I got them on Amazon. I will link them for you. The bacon that we're going to be using in our bacon onion tartlets is thick cut bacon. It's important. I tested it with the thin cut and it's not the same. The flavor is delicious, but the texture, it's missing that bite of getting an actual, under your teeth, you get that nice little bit of meat, unless you're a vegetarian, in which case I'm sorry. But so that's why it's important that we're going to go ahead and use our thick cut bacon. In my case, I'm using applewood smoked. It is my favorite. So I'm going to meet you over at the stove and we're just going to go ahead and get this started. It goes together pretty quickly. It does take some time to caramelize our onions. You don't want to rush caramelizing onions. I know it gets kind of tedious and you feel like, well, let me just turn it up and it's faster. What we're looking to do is bring out the natural sugars in the onions, and that will take some time. So it's worth to take the time, slow down and do it right. If you crank the heat, even though they do look caramelized, they're missing that extraction of sugar and it's just not the same. Okay, so I'll meet you over at the stove and we'll get started. Okay, so we're going to start off in a basic simple saute pan and we are going to brown off our bacon and then we are going to caramelize our onions in that bacon fat. The things you want to have ready is a dish lined with paper towels so that we can drain our bacon. Just have that ready. To make sure that we're leaving as much of our fat in the pan, because we want to use that as our cooking fat, you want to use a slotted spoon when you're removing your bacon. It's important, let's get in close here, that we render all of the fat, or as much as you can, before you create an issue. You want the texture to be crisp so that when we mix it into our filling, it doesn't become this flaccid, yucky mess. And that's how we get that. We make sure that we're crisp at this step. Okay, so we've drained our bacon, and now we caramelize our onions. To get a good caramelization on the onions, we have to turn the heat down. We want the sugars to be naturally caramelized, and that does take time, so we're going to slow the heat down so that we get a beautiful sugar extraction instead of a really fast cook that just kind of scorches. We're going to add just a pinch of salt right here and pepper. That addition of salt at this point is going to help pull those sugars out of the onions. And right now, as we're getting closer to the end, we're going to sprinkle in our thyme. Now in this case, I'm using dry. You can use fresh. When you're using fresh thyme, it is twice as much as dry. So if you're going to use dry, make sure that you cut the amount in half. Otherwise, that would be very unpleasant. We've got our heavy cream. And 1 egg. Now what it's important to make sure that we do before we move on to the next step is make sure that we have cooled down the bacon and the onions. We don't want to risk curdling our cream or cooking our egg. We're going to add most of our cheese. We're going to save a little. Okay. This is Gruyère cheese. Absolutely delicious stuff. It is important to actually get the good stuff. Gruyère cheese, that's kind of the American version, tends to taste like wax. I've tried to find I know Gruyère cheese can be a little pricey. I'm aware of that. You don't need very much, so you can buy a small piece. But the American version is just not very good. Okay, now I wanted to show you something. This is the fat that we used. It was the bacon fat that we also cooked the onions in. Well, there was quite a bit of fat left over. Don't throw that away. This is great to use to cook with. Great to make a pasta, fry eggs, anything like that. This stuff is absolutely delicious. Please don't throw it away. We're going to add our pepper, a little pinch of salt, and then we're going to add in our cooled onions and bacon. Make sure there are no pockets because the onions are so jammy from being cooked so slowly that they're going to want to stick together. So take the extra moment and give it a really healthy stir to break up those clumps of caramelized onion. Okay. Now what we can do from here, we're going to set aside. This is just a bit of our cheese that we set aside. We're going to sprinkle over the top. So we're going to move this aside, and we're going to take about 2 tablespoons of the filling and put it in our tartlet shells. We want to make sure all of the filling is in the center. Nothing hanging off the sides. A little bit of cheese and put it on top of each one, just to get a little bit of that browning. Aren't they beautiful? Let's get closer. There they go. Look at them. So beautifully puffed, crisp on the edges, beautifully caramelized, and they smell incredible. Why would we buy anything from the store when we can do this at home? Well, we wouldn't. That's why we didn't. And now we're going to go ahead with our second filling, which is our Spanakopita. So we're going to start by sauteing our garlic, our onions, and our scallions. And then we're going to mix the rest of the ingredients, which is feta cheese, spinach, a little bit of cottage cheese that just adds a really nice creaminess. And it adds a little bit of like a zip that you wouldn't expect. If you're not a fan of cottage cheese, I promise you, you won't know it's there. It's there for texture. Okay, and we've got some lemon zest, some herbs, some dill. Great stuff, super easy, absolutely delicious. I'll see you at the stove. We've got our olive oil. Now you'll notice I have everything pre-measured. That just makes cooking more pleasant. If you just get it all done at once, especially if you're having a big cooking or baking day and you're doing several different things, it's really nice to have everything just all set up for you, and it allows you to move a lot faster. I'm going to start with the garlic. Just when we get a little bit of a brown, just a little golden, we'll add the next ingredients. I like that little bit of a toast that we get on our garlic. One more little detail. Now my recipe doesn't call for it, but I like to add it. And that's just a little bit of crushed red pepper flake. If you don't like spice, leave it out. I just like a little bit, just a pinch. I love green onions. Absolutely love them. The amount of green onions I grow is absurd. And it's never enough. Pinch of salt and pepper. The minute you add your onions, that's when you want to add your salt and pepper. And in this case, I'm going to add just a little bit of crushed red pepper flake. And we're done. Okay, so our onions and garlic have cooled. We're going to add our herbs. We've got some parsley, dill, lemon zest. Now you want to break that up, make sure it's not sticking. Lemon zest likes to stick to itself. Now this is chopped spinach that has been very, very well drained. If you do not drain the life out of your spinach, you'll end up with a soggy bottom, and you don't want that. So you really, really, really want to let it drain and then squeeze it out. I squeeze it in a cheesecloth to make sure there is no liquid left. Then we've got a beaten egg. We've got our cottage cheese and our feta. Now it's important that you're using feta that comes in a block. Please, please, please don't use that feta that comes already crumbled up. They're literally giving you the garbage that fell off the sides that they pulled out of the bottom of the barrel, and they're selling that to you. It's overly salted, and it doesn't have the beautiful flavor that you want because the brine has over-soaked it. So that's why it's important to make sure that you buy a piece, an actual chunk of feta cheese. Give this a good stir. We're going to season with a little salt and pepper. Make sure that we don't have any pockets. We want every bite to taste exactly the same. Make sure that the scalloped edges are all lined up so that they stay exactly where they should. Now, because we've got egg in there, this filling will set and it will poof up just a little bit, and then it falls again. Okay, we evenly distribute whatever's left. Waste not, want not. Just make sure you don't have cheese on the edge of your pan, otherwise it will stick. We're going to put this in the oven at 375 degrees, and it will bake for about 15 to 18 minutes. I'll see you when it comes out. So here we are. We've got a platter full of 2 different types of tiny little tartlets that are so easy to make. They're delicious. They freeze well. And I had to fight my husband to get this on this platter to show you. I'm going to get the camera.
Husband approved.
Okay, moving on. Okay, I'm tired. You distracted me. What did I say? Oh, these are easy to make. I had to fight for them. I'm going to bring the camera closer so you can see them. But you just serve them just like this. People come in, they'll enjoy them, and they're homemade. You didn't buy them from who knows where with God knows what in them. You know exactly what's in them. So thank you for stopping by. I appreciate your time. If you like what we do here, please consider subscribing. I really do appreciate it. I hope you love this. If you make them, please let me know. I'd love to know what you think. I'll grab the camera and get a close-up. See you next time. Here are the spinach and the bacon and onion. I had to fight for these, you guys. Now, the minute I turn this camera off, there's going to be a dust bunny, and my husband's going to... Okay. All right, go ahead. You can take it. Go. I'll grab your hand. Not that one. No, I'm just kidding. I'll see you guys next time.